You're doing everything you can, helping out, paying the bills, maybe even saying I love you every day. But your spouse still says they don't feel loved.
If I loved people the way I love myself, nobody would feel loved by me. In our house, the agreement is just say it, and if it hurts, we notify the other person.
When arguments happen, you find yourself trying to win because, let's be honest, it feels like if you're right, maybe things will finally change.
You can win the battle, but you'll lose the war, and the war is your relationship. You cannot be in love deeply and enjoy your spouse if you're not resolving conflict.
Here's the truth. Being right doesn't fix a relationship. And doing what you think shows love isn't always what they need.
The biggest thing people get wrong is they fight to be right.
This episode might just save your relationship.
Welcome back to the Jason Magar podcast. So far, we have covered getting your business idea, which is finding the right person. You have to become the right person. The interview phase where you hire the right candidate to be your spouse. The pre-grand opening, getting yourself ready for opening up your business. Day-to-day operations and roles and responsibilities. Today, we'll be covering crisis management and conflict resolution.
There's a link in the description. You can click it. It will give you all the information about the business of relationships that Jason is writing right now. It's a book that you can pass along all this information you're learning from this content right now. And there's going to be some information at the bottom of that webpage. You can fill out your name and your email, and we're going to notify you when the book is released so that you can order it right when it comes out, pass it along, consume it yourself. So just look out for that link if you want to support the content we have here now, and then also have some life-changing material at your house and something you can give to your friends and use for yourself. We're in the section of the book about crisis management. Jason, I want to ask you, what is the number one thing that you see people get wrong when it comes to crisis in relationships? And can you define crisis also before you answer that?
So crisis is a larger category. If I break it down, it is conflict. So most people view conflict as this ugly monster where yelling and screaming and bad things happen. But the dictionary defines conflict as the inability to agree on a point. So if truly you just view conflict as you and I don't agree on the same thing, that's conflict. It doesn't have to be mean. It's just you're a different person, I'm a different person. We see the world differently. We don't agree. So we talk through it. Other crisis in business, money. You have crisis at home. You can't pay the bills. You've got to talk about it. And worse off if there's a downturn in the economy. COVID was a great example of how businesses hit an economic some boom. Jeff Bezos doubled his net worth during COVID, but most businesses didn't survive because that was a pressure that they weren't ready for. In marriage, it can be loss of a spouse, can be loss of children, loved ones, cancer diagnosis, any of that can be crisis. So how do you rally together as a business to address those crises?
What do you feel like people get wrong the most when it comes to crisis in all of your counseling sessions and marriage counseling, etc.?
I think the biggest thing people get wrong is they fight to be right. And in fighting to be right, you only instill your own ego and pride. And ego and pride have no place in relationship, and everything's a relationship. So if you understand that it's when you're married, it's you and me against the problem, it's not you and me against each other. And most people immediately go to it's me against you, and we're going to fight it out, and whoever's right wins. You can win the battle, but you'll lose the war, and the war is your relationship. In business, all the time, you'll have people, they have a conflict, they don't address it, and they'll sit and talk about the other person. It's just this negative and can turn into a toxic workplace if you have leadership that's not willing to step in or someone who's willing to actually have that conflict. When I had a very well-known company that was my customer, I'd just taken over dealing with the account and got into a call And the guy started yelling at me and demanding that I do what he said. And I said, I don't deal with demands. I'm more than happy to address your requests. I said, but if you're going to treat me in a manner that I'm subservient or I am here to bow down to your demands, that's not how I work. So let's get that right up front. And I was feeling a little frisky that day. And I said, I'm really sorry for your family at home, because if you feel at liberty to speak to me this aggressively, I can't imagine how you speak to the people you love. Never raised his voice to me again.
You mentioned that you wanted to speak about how you love people. How does that, what comes to mind with that in terms of crisis?
Sure. One of the courses I took years ago was managing different generations. And each person in a generation was motivated by different things. Baby boomers, they got hired with one company. They wanted to stay with them for their entire life. They were dedicated. They were loyal. They wanted to get their little watch and retire at the end. It was really frowned upon to move jobs. It was viewed as negative. Gen Xers were not as dedicated. They were motivated by freedom. Gen Y had a different motivation. And so it was interesting to me because I couldn't manage all of my employees the same. If I had a baby boomer, I had to understand that it was about loyalty and about really making sure that he was part of that company and feeling like he belonged to that company. A Gen Y really wanted to work from home. So if I said, you got to be in the office every day of the week, they're probably not going to stay with me that long. So really striking a balance and understanding what is important to each employee helped me to be a better leader, because now I knew how to deal with people based upon their place in birth and time. And in relationships, and the golden rule says, treat people as you'd like to be treated. And I was reading something the other day, and it was, love people the way you love yourself. And I said, I completely disagree with that. If I loved people the way I love myself, nobody would feel loved by me. My daughter does not love or receive love the same way I do. And so you really, as a member of a business, as a member of a family, you have to make sure that you are treating people the way they want to be treated versus the way you want to be treated. I like directness. If you got a problem with me, say it. We'll talk. I don't get my feathers ruffled. I'm not upset that you bring it to me. I always operate from the motto, I can deal with anything as long as I know it. So if you got to tell me something, tell me. I'm an internal processor, so give me a minute. And then I'm more than willing to have that conversation. Not everybody's that way. 76% of Americans are conflict avoidant. And so they'll have an issue, they'll never say anything. Codependent people will people please, even at the detriment of themselves. So they'll give beyond what is healthy. So understanding how every person in your home wants to be loved. Love languages, we talked about that. If it's acts of service, make sure you're doing an act of service and make sure they know that act of service is to show them you love them, so that you're making deposits in their love bank and they're feeling loved. If your wife is words of affirmation and all you do is acts of service, she's never going to feel loved. She's going to say, my husband doesn't love me. And they come into counseling, and the husband's like, I tell her all the time. And she's like, you never tell me. They're arguing about the fact whether they love each other. And you're wasting your efforts if you don't let your partner know, I'm doing this so you know I love you. So it's really important to make sure you're doing that and loving them in the way that they feel loved. Talking to them in a way that they feel okay. Having agreement on how you do things. Angel and I operate from the position, just talk. I don't want either of us wasting any time trying to figure out the words to say to each other. In our house, the agreement is just say it. And if it hurts, we notify the other person. So I'll say something and I'll just be talking, and Angel's like, that hurt me. And I'm like, what? What'd you just hear? I don't have to stop and go, how can I shape each and every word so that Angel receives it in the way I intend it? Angel's okay telling me, dude, you just said this. Is that what you intended? I'm like, absolutely not. Thanks for letting me know. So that's a great gift that my wife gives me. And if she says something I feel disrespected, I'm like, that was really disrespectful. Was that your intention? Or this is what I just heard. Is that what you intended? Now we can just communicate, and we don't have to worry about spending hours and hours figuring out just the right way to say it in the right time. And even if it's you have no idea how to say it, say, I'm just going to say this. It's going to come across wrong. Let's talk about what you heard. Get it out on the table and talk. That way you are actually working together, because if I don't know how to say it and I just want her to know what I'm thinking, and as an internal processor, I can verbally process with her because I don't know where I am. And I'm like, I need your help getting to how I'm got here. So it's really a good place to do that. The healthiest businesses, workplaces I've ever been in do conflict well. They teach people how to have conversations. And I don't know how many couples have 25 years of marriage and 25 years of unresolved conflict. You cannot be in love deeply and enjoy your spouse if you're not resolving conflict. Men all the time say, my wife remembers everything I ever did wrong. And I say, that's because it's unresolved. It's not a history lesson in keeping score and tally. It is, we didn't resolve this. So every time we have a disagreement, I'm bringing it up because it's still unresolved in me. And so I teach people, talk about the topic you're on, write that down and go, wow, that's unresolved. Let's address that later. And really staying on that topic so you can actually resolve one thing. One of the exercises I often do is have people write down all their resentments and bring them into me. And I tell them, don't read them to each other because that's not going to go well. So let's do it in the office. And I just start walking through them. And I can watch the weight being lifted off a person as we start to talk to them, through them. We watch them connect. I mean, it's just amazing. And then they just start rolling through them, because once you get through the first couple, the rest tend to be a lot easier because they're like, wow, my partner is committed to resolving this. My partner is in this. My partner truly wants to understand me. And that really transforms it. There's a guy that comes in and buys struggling businesses. The first thing he does is he creates a feedback system that says, tell me everything that's wrong with this company. Why? Because he wants to know how the employees view it. He can turn struggling businesses into thriving businesses because he deals with the problems, with the conflicts, with the areas that are failing. So whether it's a business, whether it's your family that's the business, you have to do conflict well, and you have to talk about it.
I think something that is motivating is you have the understanding of how your spouse receives love, how you receive love. But once you both learn how to view each other's, and then it reshapes how you view your own, then moving forward, not only do you know how to do right to your spouse, but when you do things out of your love language, they're able to spot that they're loving on you, maybe not in the way that they prefer, but I think it opens the doors where it's almost a compound effect. It's like a 2-for-1 unlock when you really figure that out, which is cool.
And you learn a new language. So I'm multilingual, but not in words. I can only do it in love languages because I've had enough people describe them to me that I know how to speak all of them. Why? Because I want to be able to explain it to somebody who doesn't understand it. And it's not that hard to learn them if you're willing to, but most people are operating from such an empty love bank that they don't want to be the first one to go first. Well, I want them to go first. Somebody's got to do it. Who wants to be first? And if nobody will decide, I'm like, well, man, you're the man in the relationship, so do it. Somebody's got to do it, so why not you?
Walk us through step by step, like as if we were a couple in your office and we came in and one of the resentments was, the first one on their list was like, they just come home, they don't give me any attention, and they just go on their phone and waste time and don't, I haven't seen them all day and I just feel like they don't love me. Like, how do you, as if the audience and us are the couple, how do you even help them? Step one, what do you say?
And let's do the wife is a stay-at-home mom, because I get this a lot. And the husbands will be, I provide for the family. And I'm like, awesome. I said, is your job 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? They're like, no. I said, neither is hers. You have defined working hours, so does she. When you come home, your job is to engage in the family. Great, you've done your job, you provided, cool. She's done her job all day, whatever those roles and responsibilities are during the day. Now when you're both home together, give her a break. Let her take a minute to herself. Yeah, but I worked all day, I'm stressed. Cool, you got your drive home to unwind and switch from business mode, work mode, to home mode. And then really engage. If we're walking through the resentments, I'll understand the resentment. But a lot of times, and especially men, are physically present, but they're not mentally or emotionally present. They're in the house, but they're not there. And they're on their phones. They're scrolling. They're looking on, I'm shopping on Marketplace because I need to buy things for my family. No, you're trying to look at toys for yourself. You're escaping in your phone because you don't want to be present in your own home. Show up. And Angel has 100% permission to say, Jason, you're not present. I need you here. Why? Because I want to know when my wife feels like I'm not here. And I'm an internal processor. I can get lost in my brain. I can be up there for hours, days, if you let me. I need somebody to snap me out of it. So making sure your spouse has the ability to say, you're not present. If you have an employee that comes into work and they daydream all day long, you go, just sit there and do that. You're okay. I'm good with that. No. Dude, you need to get together and you need to show up when you're here. It's the same thing at home. You need to show up when you're here. If you've had a really bad day, text your wife before you drive. Don't do it while you're driving. Say, I had a horrible day. When I get home, I need a half hour to just do nothing. And then just do nothing when you come home. She has a time bound of how long it is. She knows the break's coming. She's willing to give you that time because she knows when you're done, you'll show up. And when she gives you that 30 minutes, show up. Why? Because she'll give it to you every time you ask for it if you're willing to show up. And I have people schedule downtime for each other. Take one day a week and say, this is your day off. Go do what recharges you individually. I do what recharges me individually, and it's kind of works because I'm an extrovert, so I go out of the house. That gives Angel downtime because she's an introvert and she recharges. So if my daughter and I are both gone, she's recharging. And when I'm gone and I'm around people, I'm recharging. So we both come back together with full batteries and we can engage back into marriage. Just wanted to take a quick break from the episode. Hope you're enjoying it. I would love to help revolutionize your relationship. I will be releasing The Business of Relationships, and you can get your copy on pre-order. If you want to click below, give me your information. I will alert you as soon as the book is ready. I'm working really hard to compile my 18 years of experience of studying relationships and my 30 years of business experience to help get this together in a way that makes sense, that you can build your relationship, prepare yourself for a relationship, interview the candidates for your marriage, and then successfully run a business household that allows your relationship to succeed in a way that it never would without this framework. I hope you're enjoying.
I want to touch on some tactical advice and pick your brain more there to give people something to grab onto and take from this. But let's talk about major life crisis, major life events, loss of spouse, child, just death, grieving, any of those extremes, or even natural disaster. Where does your brain go when you have people in front of you that are dealing with that, and how can they approach those type of life events?
If your business is struck with a disaster, you'll do everything you can to save it. And because that's your lifeline to provide for your living, to provide for the lifestyle that you had, to take care of that. Often in families, when there's a crisis, they don't align with each other. They attack each other. Why? Their stress levels are high. And it's easy to just vent to the person that you love the most because They'll understand. They love me. Well, they're in a stress point too. Say you're dealing with the loss of a child. That is horrible. No parent should ever have to experience that. If you're experiencing that, that's something that you two have to go, we need to grieve. You have to grieve individually because if I lost my daughter, I lost the ability to be a father to her. Angel lost the ability to be the wife, Angel lost the ability to be the mom to her. We together lost our child. So there is 3 points of grieving. Angel grieving, me grieving, and then us grieving together. And working through that grief process. And when I did the grief class in my master's, it said, there's no recipe for doing grief and nobody does it well. And I'm like, I like that. Because if you have something you need to grieve, you're going to do it completely different than I do. Anybody that comes in the office in grief, I'm like, cool, do it your way. I'm not going to, but you have to do it. If you don't do it, it will destroy you. And so marriage after marriage is broken up because of a catastrophic event that you can't bounce back from. Because why? You don't grieve yourself and you don't grieve together as a couple. And it's really that important that when something happens, you view we're fighting for the lifeline of our business, which is our marriage and our family. And if it's the loss of a spouse, when I lost my mom, Angel was as devastated as I was. I was probably more hurt because it was my mom, but Angel and my mom had a relationship. Angel cried deeply, and it was not easy for either of us to be available to the other one. And our daughter was crying because she lost her grandma. And it's like, how do we find emotional bandwidth to be available for them? The friends in our lives rallied around and were there for us to support us. I was having my pool built at the time, and because I'm a nice guy, people like me, I do relationship well. He's like, I'm so sorry, and he brought us dinner in the middle of it. And that gave us support from others to try to actually recover and become available to each other so that we could start the grieving process. Me individually, loss of my mom. Angel individually, loss of her mother-in-law. The daytime caretaker to my daughter, and my daughter, the loss of her grandmother, who she loved deeply.
I feel like that gives anybody a really good approach and understanding of how more so what the energy and the dynamic shift is. What is the tactical advice with crisis in general? If you could think of tools in your toolbox, what are those tools in specifics that someone could put in their pocket right now forever forward?
Typically, obviously, I'm a counselor, so I'm going to say get a counselor because it's our job to help guide you through it. It's our job to help talk to you. It's our job to help understand where you're at. And sometimes just talking is all you need to somebody who's not emotionally attached. I love my clients, but I'm not emotionally attached to the person who was lost. So I can be objective, I can be empathetic, I can be available without being upset myself, where a spouse would be. I can do individual or I can do couples together, but bring people in that matter. If you don't want to do a counselor, if you have good people in your life, bring them in and just talk and let them just be available. And don't try to respond and say, oh, at least they're in heaven. They're in a better spot. You don't want to hear that. You don't need to respond to fix anything. You just need to be emotionally available and say, I'm here for you. What do you need? And if it's absolutely nothing and just sit next to me while I grieve, just sit next to them while they grieve. If they want to be held, hold them and do what that person needs. I go back to my first point of loving somebody the way they need to be loved. When somebody's in crisis, love them the way they need to be loved. Support them the way they need to be supported, and just
ask and be bold in those. Like you don't want to ask questions. You feel like you're bothering someone grieving or doing anything hard. I think that's the opposite approach, is go in there and ask, what exactly could I do right now? And I think it's always going to be a underwhelming response, but that in the most positive way to truly align with what they need.
And you want to do some grand gesture to make them okay. There's nothing you can do to make them okay. You just lost your kid. What am I going to say to you to make you feel better? Absolutely nothing. There is no amount of pain. I had a friend that I worked with, and his daughter died at 16. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're going through right now. Do you want to talk? And he talked to me our lunch, our lunch went really, really long, but it was really cool to just be there. And I had no training. I had no skills back then. I was just like, dude, you lost your daughter, and our daughter was probably 1 or 2. So I really didn't have a long tread life. But in my mind, I'm like, if Brooke died, how would I feel? And I'm like, I'd be absolutely shattered. My world would be just completely changed. What can I say to somebody whose world's completely changed to just go, boom, everything's better? Nothing. And he gave me the best description as we kept talking. He said, this was my level of happiness when my daughter was alive. He goes, I've accepted that my new level of happiness will only ever go this high. He goes, I can't be as happy as I was when my daughter was here. I know that and I understand it. I'm only reaching for a lesser level of happiness because it'll never be the same without her. And I thought that was really, really well said. And it helped me understand from his perspective what his life looked like after the loss of his daughter.
The tool of bringing people in and speaking to them, the tool of loving them the way they deserve to be loved by asking specifically even. I think those two cover a lot. Do you feel like there's anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah, and if there's somebody that has a loss that you're close to, bring them dinner. And organize some other people to bring them dinner, because the last thing you want to think about is preparing meals when you need to be just repairing emotions and repairing hurt and attending to it. So just the mere fact of bringing over dinner really does make a difference. Letting them know that they're there, sending them a text, hey, do you need anything? Please tell me. It would bring me great pleasure to be able to do something for you in this time. Most people don't want to be burdened, but they have a huge burden on them. I'm okay being burdened to Uber Eats somebody a meal. That's not a big burden. That's, hey, well, that's things you like, dude. Here you go. And if they're good friends, you know where we've eaten before and the ones they liked. So take note of that. It was something you said when asking questions. And suicide, when somebody says, I'm suicidal, most people are afraid to ask questions. When somebody says, I'm really depressed, they're like, I don't want to ask them, are they suicidal? Like, why? You're not going to put the idea in their head. It's already there. You want to know, do you have a plan? If the answer is yes, that's critical. If there's a plan, you're in a bad spot. If it's just ideation, understand where in the ideation process it is. When I do a suicide risk assessment, I'm like, do you have a plan? That's the first question I ask them. I'm not going, hey, by this question, you should develop a plan. No, I'm assessing where you're at because I want to meet you where you're at. And then understand, most people are so afraid to ask. That person wants to be asked. And what was the guy's name I sent you? Kevin jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived.
I don't remember his last name.
Yeah, just Google him. Kevin jumped off Golden Bridge and survived. He said, if one person would have asked me how I was doing, I wouldn't have jumped. And if you're just walking around this world carrying the heaviest burden you've ever had in your life, and one person goes, how are you truly doing? You know somebody cares. So really just showing people that you care and that you're available and that you're willing to do whatever. And if I have a friend whose kid just died, if they text or called me at 2:00 in the morning, I'd make sure I was available. My loss of a little bit of sleep isn't that big of an inconvenience. I would much rather make sure I'm available for that person. the last point I'll make is take conflict and crisis serious. Take it as if you're fighting for the livelihood of your business, because it is the livelihood of your marriage or your family. Don't just brush it under the rug. I tell people who are conflict avoidant, when you brush it under the rug, eventually it's this big mound under the rug and you're going to trip over it. So don't sweep things under. Take it serious and fight for your marriage, fight for your family in a way that it is fighting for your livelihood, as if you would for your business.